All right. We're live, everybody. Happy Sunday to all of you. Little dead mouse. Dead mouse. I said that way wrong. All right. Get right to it. I'm going to try to do a little bit more of these solo podcast, little Sunday morning sanity, call it that, although it's Sunday afternoon here on the East Coast. I wanted to recap the fight of the week that all of conservative intellectual Twitter in America was talking about, which is our good friends Sohrab Amari and David French. So Sohrab came out with an article after calling it out on Twitter David Frenchism, which is basically his take is that we as conservative intellectuals have failed in the culture war. And it's interesting. He's actually got a valid point on the culture war type. Matt Continetti has a good recap of it over here at the Free Beacon, Making Sense of the New American Right, but he misses some stuff. But overall, it's a good recap. Let's see. So let me first take a little tangent here. I tagged Jonah Goldberg in this episode, and I want to thank him. Jonah, thank you for everything you have done for the conservative intellectual movement in this country since you started your career at National Review. And he has retired or left National Review to start his own thing with Stephen Hayes, which I'm looking forward to seeing. But I want to thank him for everything he's done. He's been pretty much a ballast in a very rocky time over the past 3 years for sure, and has made a lot of sense. I'm not sure what's your new Twitter handle going to be, because it's Jonah NRO. Can you not use that anymore? I don't know. We'll find out. But he wrote his last column for NR, and it was a G file, and it actually covered some of what I'm going to talk about with Sohrab and David. But one thing Jonah recommended a while back is this. This is the conservative intellectual movement in America since 1945. And this is essentially a recap of what Sohrab and David have been fighting about this week and what we've been all fighting about in our circles for quite some time. If you read it, it's deja vu all over again. And I guess Sohrab is channeling his inner Russell Kirk by going after David French. I don't know if it was the right target, but I'm glad the discussion's happening. A lot of people took it personally for David. I tagged Jennifer Braceras in this. She knew him from law school, and actually like to get her and Michael Graham on at the same time because they're local to here. But this is a good fight we need to have. You know, I was listening to the Editor's podcast a few weeks ago, and David was going back and forth with Michael Brendan Doherty over our Middle East policy. And then more recently, Jonah and Rich Lowry were debating nationalism. This is a fight that we need to have, I think, because there's a lot of valid points that Sohrab brings up. I'm going to go to his good points first, but then I'm going to get to some of the stuff where I think he misses and where we need to improve overall. I'm going to try to keep this short. We're at 4.5 minutes so far, but I'm going to try to keep this short so people don't lose interest. Okay. National Review is the number one place for conservative thought in America. that gets a lot of people jealous, especially in the age of Trump, because they came out against Trump. But they've still maintained their prominence, which is a good thing, because they've been logical in what they've been covering. But it's mostly been policy, for the past few years. It's become a business rather than necessarily challenging the cultural norms that we have today. Specifically, and we're talking about, the casual sex stuff, drugs, permissive parenting, spoiled children, the I generation, the snowflake generation. It's more conservative ink. And I don't know that they've risen to the challenge of affecting the culture in a positive way, to counteract a lot of the bad things that have been going on. The person that has been doing it is Ben Shapiro. I was thinking about this. Ben rose to prominence, 3 years ago, and because he would go to college campuses and challenge the student leftists there directly and not so nicely. He was kind of a dick about things, and I think that worked. Ben Dominic had a good piece today about the whole David Frenchism and Sohrab's picking a fight with them, and used the phrase, and it fits, the Ned Flanders approach. The Oakley Dokley, let's just be polite and do that. And, it's got a point. But then I guess I have to ask Sohrab, which David brought up in his rebuttal article, which is right here on nationalreview.com, is where do you go from it? What are you planning on doing? What's the plan here? Because he mentioned something like Christian statism, which I don't know if I go that far as to probably posit that that's what Sohrab's take is, but certainly I want to know what the thought process is. Morality laws, legislating morality is just a terrible idea, and I certainly don't want the people that are governing me right now deciding on those things. I think fusionism still is the answer, but there's got to be a blend towards it. And I'm not in the favor of the camp guys, please stop fighting type thing. No, let's fight it. Let's have it out. Because I think fusionism will return to the point it was when the consensus was developed. Again, in this book, read it. You'll be better off. But NR and the folks in, call it Conservatism Inc., the guys who used to be at the Weekly Standard, that's a whole nother topic for another show. But Ben Shapiro, going back to Ben challenges his adversaries face to face. Now, one thing he hasn't done with a lot of his interviews is gone to the debate route that he should. Having people on like Joe Rogan does for long-form, uninterrupted conversations that have a fact-checker right there that can pull it up like Joe Rogan does. Like, pull that shit up, Jamie, when he says to research something. The Sunday morning special is the best example where he has a long-form interview, but I don't know. Something happens when it's one-on-one. Andrew Yang's probably the closest to a prominent Democrat that he's had on to debate. And it's lacking. Maybe it needs a live audience. Maybe it needs just no time box around it. Maybe it needs a lot of other stuff. But it's close. And Shapiro is leading the charge, I think, on the cultural pushback. Certainly with a lot of the things that conservatives complain about recently. Look what he does when he goes on TV. When he took on Pierce Morgan, he wasn't nice about it. He's not friendly and laughing along with people who he knows are out to cut his throat. The people that have been pushing it and challenging and been doing really well are the intellectual dark web, even the liberals in the intellectual dark web. And I think there's a high degree of overlap that prominent intellectual conservatives, a lot of the folks at National Review, have not acknowledged that the intellectual dark web has taken, I won't say the place, but a lot of attention, and it needs to be more of a blending. There needs to be more of an interaction. All these guys have books coming out. Actually, you know what? I have Sohrab's book over there. I didn't grab it. I'll maybe well, Sohrab had a book coming out a few months ago. I picked it up. But he should be going on Joe Rogan's podcast, if Joe has him on, to talk about this stuff, to really get into it. But I don't know. I haven't seen it. Maybe I'm missing it. The closest that I've seen come to it is Jamie Weinstein, who's had on his podcasts Ta-Nehisi Coates, Don Lemon, I think, and I don't know. The pushback isn't there as much, but it's good. It's in the right direction. But where's the prominence of it? Jamie doesn't, to his credit, he just doesn't seem to have to. I don't know what the traction's not there. Anyway, the IDW is leading the charge on the cultural stuff, not intellectual conservatism, and that needs to change. But Ben Shapiro kind of blends the worlds of both of those. Going back to what Matt Continetti wrote up, check it out. It's very good. But he said, I got to take issue with some of the gains that conservatives have made. He kind of limited it to about. So there's a few more that I want to get into, especially with judges. And the idea of originalism and the judges that push by the Federalist Society. We've had really good success with that. Changing the whole discussion where there's actually a prominent movement that says, no, there's originalism in the text of the Constitution. I think that's critically important. And that's because of conservatism. That's because of fusionism. I'm saying a lot. Try to stop doing that. From the judges that were appointed that decided that Obamacare was a tax, and then repealing that tax. The concepts around the Second Amendment. In fact, it's gone in the other direction. Rather than more gun control, the Overton window has been shifted so that it's more gun control isn't really on the docket for, I'd say, moderate and conservative Republicans. Let's see, Citizens United, and this is the other big thing that with Matt Continetti, I think, missed. For a long time, up until the 1950s, Republicans occasionally won the House of Representatives. And from the 1950s through the 1990s, the Republicans did not win the House of Representatives. Now it flips back and forth with regular frequency. That is because of fusionism. That is because of a united united Republican consensus around conservative principles, and those are victories, and those can't be just dismissed or pushed out of the way. Lastly, I'll try to wrap up with a couple things here. So today, the Daily Beast came out with an article doxing essentially the guy who made those videos of people who, let's see, I think if it's up here, Stephen Miller's been tracking it. So the Daily Beast came out with an article doxing the guy who made the videos of Nancy Pelosi, which slowed down her speech and where she appeared to be drunk, and they were fake videos. They went after this guy specifically, personally. He's just a regular person who made the videos. He doesn't work for the Russians like Pelosi was suspecting. And this is where we are. I don't think politeness wins this situation. I think there's a difference between manners and principles. And you don't have to mind your manners when you're dealing with somebody who's irrational and out to destroy you. That's insane. That's insane. They're not being reasonable, so you don't have to be reasonable back. I think there's a good case that Sohrab was talking about where, high-minded essays aren't going to do the job. It's getting worse, not better, in spite of all the victories, and there's been quite a lot of victories that have been taking place. I don't know what the actual answer is, but I know what the answer isn't on a case-by-case basis, and it's not necessarily to be polite and say, "Oh shucks" and "oakley dokley," but as David pointed out in his rebuttal to Sohrab, there's no way in hell that we're going to legislate morality. The idea of liberalism in the classical sense is the superior order of the day, going back to some sense of restrictionism for free trade, which is a fight where we need to have more of. Free trade is a good thing. The tariffs, the restrictionism that's taking place and that's kind of taken a foothold in some elements of the right is wrong, but let's fight it out. Let's debate it, because the positive aspects of it far outweigh the negative. And most of the people who are on the side of restrictionism and protectionism aren't in business. The people that are know what the right answer is. Still saying I got to correct that. Anyway, we're about 15 minutes. That should probably do. Legislating morality is going to backfire. I don't know. I'd like to hear what Sohrab's answer to David French is in this. There's got to be a specific path forward, because if there isn't, then it is just sniping. I like David French a lot. He's been very good on quite a bit of issues. I met him last year at the Republican convention in Massachusetts. He was supporting his friend John Kingston, and I actually asked him, I was like, hey, I went up to him and said, I really like what you write, which is true. I do. I respect him quite a bit, and asked him to follow me on Twitter. So I hope he watches this, because I don't want there to be some guys, let's calm down. Just have it out. Come on a podcast. We'll do a live with video, uninterrupted, talk about it. Sohrab grew up in the next town over from me, and I've DM'd with him a little bit. Hopefully he comes up and we get to talk about this more. Maybe, for my own personal come to my backyard. It's very fun. We'll do a salon. It'll be very hoity-toity. All right, I think that's it. Please read this book. If you like the intellectual dark web and you like the philosophical debate that's going on between, say, Jordan Peterson and Sam Harris, the first few chapters of this book, I'll put it up right here. The first few chapters of this book are fantastic for that. It really gets into what the left-right dynamic has evolved over time, from Enlightenment thinking back to ancient wisdom. It covers the gamut, and it's really it took me a while to get through it, but it's totally worth it. Yeah, I highlighted pages or highlighted paragraphs, highlighted sentences. There's a lot that hits home. I can't recommend it enough. I want to thank Jonah Goldberg for putting that out there. I want to thank him for everything that he's done for the conservative movement. I look forward to what he and Steve Hayes are going to be involved with. And that's it for right now, everybody. Have a great Sunday. I might come back on in a couple minutes to cover Barstool Sports and the Bruins and Kirk Minahan and all that good stuff. But that'll be in the next live stream. Have a great day. Enjoy your Sunday. Thank you. Did I miss anything? Let's just checking my notes. Nah, I think we're good. All right. Have a good one. Bye-bye.